And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you are hearing the sound of my voice or looking at me resplendent in my Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle hat, it can only mean one thing. After a week off to celebrate that most American of all holidays, Thanksgiving, where we dedicate ourselves to overindulgence on carbs and turkey, we are back, giving thanks for the bounty of sports that we have to talk about. It is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports, the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I'm joined this week by my faithful companion in all things podcasting, Mr. Stead. How goes it, sir?
Going pretty good.
Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
I did. I spent a good chunk of it in the car, but that is to be expected over here in the good old US of A. But got a chance to watch some football, got a chance to watch some world football, got a chance to eat a lot of food. And so to say it was an enjoyable weekend. Yes, absolutely.
I have one of my former classmates over, and I have learned recently that there is a big difference in between Black Thanksgiving and White Thanksgiving. White Thanksgiving requires math. You need to know exactly how many people are showing up so that you can have the exact right amount of turkey, the exact right amount of side dishes, and then everybody gets a nicely organized plate for which to take home with them. Black Thanksgiving is you cook all the food until you think you have enough, and then you cook some more. So we had, normally we have my in-laws over, and it's the four of us, and we get, a small 10-pound turkey and a ham. Why do you need a turkey and a ham for four people? Who knows? But that's what we did. This time around, we had another family over, and we had to add a brisket to that. So we had turkey, ham, brisket, mashed potatoes, green beans, collard greens, rum pie, sweet potato pie, yams, and stuffing. I feel like I may be missing something. And so it was the quintessential. My young former student got the most Black of all Black Thanksgiving experiences. He proceeded to eat himself into a food coma within the first 5 minutes because he didn't pace himself properly.
Yes, he got what we like to call is the itis. Yes, very much
he
so.
He got the itis. And it was his first experience with the itis. That feeling when your stomach feels like it dunlopped over your pants and you're having to pick it up off the floor and you just want to pass out. And you're not sure where you're going to pass out, be it face down in your food, or if you can just slowly stumble over to the couch and pass out there. So the poor baby got the itis, and then he made himself a plate, and his plate got stolen. So, yeah.
I can attest that he is exactly right when it comes to different Thanksgivings, because at the one I went to as well, there was enough chips and snacks before that my son managed to eat himself into his itis before they even served dinner. And by the time all the food was placed out, there were actually more serving trays and probably pounds of food than net pound of human being that was actually there. So needless to say, there was lots of itis to be had at our Thanksgiving as well. And
of course, you don't have enough seats or plates for all the people who you have invited. So somebody gets stuck sitting at the with the TV trays and eating off of the not so good china. But the liquor flowed. We had plenty of alcohol. We had plenty of beer. Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. You see, now Sean's nodding in agreement because London Sean, you know what they call Thanksgiving over in England? Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just described that your guest went through is exactly how I feel when Spurs score a goal.
You don't know whether to pass out in your plate or make it back to the couch.
And I feel sick and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
But does your plate get stolen afterwards?
No, that doesn't happen very often, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And we know that you've never misplaced a perfectly good beverage before, because that would just be criminal.
Exactly. How do Muslims celebrate then? They obviously do the whole turkey without the alcohol, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a kosher turkey. Actually, kosher turkeys are very, very good because of the way
Are
that
they?
they prepare, the way they're prepared.
Yeah.
They're actually really, really, really good. So they do everything. You know,
Is
my
that what Lowe's has for Thanksgiving, or does he?
I don't know. He's not Muslim that I know of.
I will tell you this, having attended a Thanksgiving with a Muslim family,
yeah.
they have all of the traditional US fare, maybe
Yeah.
except for the ham, but even then, one was there. It was still there. But
Was
the
it?
surprising thing was that they included all the other traditional dishes from their homeland. And to say the spread did not bring a tear to your eye, then you are not a foodie. It was a sight to behold, I will put it that way. And I of course didn't eat anything that was traditionally of American Thanksgiving because of all the other options that was there. Yet the itis was still very much so.
The itis is good. You got
Yeah.
invited. It's a
We should,
combination of all the starches and the tryptophan in the turkey.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is you eat enough so that you pass out at 8, and then you wake up at around 11 and go back and get another plate.
Has to be done. We should have been a fly on the wall in Christian Pulisic's home, because he probably, hopefully, invited all of his Chelsea teammates around, you know, to put out all the food for Thanksgiving. And then imagine Antonio Conte arriving to break the party up because he discovers that everyone's having ketchup and mayonnaise on their food.
You know what? That would be an interesting thing to see how American expats, football players, celebrate Thanksgiving, because so many of them have a game the next day. I mean, if you were in the Europa League, you were playing that day.
Yeah.
Because I remember last year, Manchester United, or 2 years ago, Manchester United had the nerve to lose some random game in Uzbekistan on Thanksgiving Day, and it almost ruined my Thanksgiving.
Was it almost as embarrassing as Mira beating Spurs?
Almost. No, probably more so. But, you know, Spurs has had some Americans, so maybe they were celebrating Thanksgiving and they forgot to show up for the game.
Fair enough.
But yes, it was a great holiday. We're also joined by our good friend, Larry, the insurance guy. Happy Thanksgiving, Larry.
Go, Larry. Go, Larry.
Going on, gentlemen? It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, man.
Had a good Thanksgiving?
Yes. I'm sure that you had plenty of good food to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't think that my family got that white folk memo, because I've got like 2 fridges full of leftovers, and the presentation that my mother-in-law makes is the hors d'oeuvres and everything. I think in her past life, she should have been a wedding designer, because for the 7 to 8 people that we had over, we had a little bit smaller this year. The display was phenomenal, but we're all full before we even get to the turkey, and then we just stuff more. But it was a good time. Family.
Did you have an auxiliary plate?
Oh, I had 2 or 3 of them, and then I had 2 or 3 of them a couple hours later. So I'm still feeling it.
Yeah. Not a couple of days at the gym won't solve.
Yeah. Well, I leave for Punta Cana in a couple of days, so really, I need to basically not eat from now until then to fit into the clothes that I have allotted for that vacation. So. Oh
yes, the trip down to Punta Cana. Well, enjoy that. So, interesting. We'll start off with City. Whoever said that City couldn't play in less than perfect conditions? They played in a blizzard this weekend and came out winners. What'd you make of that game this weekend, Larry?
I mean, it was, considering the result, I could say I enjoyed it more. It was an interesting game. I mean, they played smart. With the injuries and the COVID that they've got going on, they continue with their depth just to show that, they can still play high level. I read something today that Gudawan was saying that Bernardo Silva just does not get the credit, and he's so underrated that he's one of their key catalysts to what they're doing this year. So I was impressed considering the conditions, the way that it all worked out.
So All's well that it seems to be all this well, despite everything, the COVID injuries, things like that. Pep Guardiola just seems to be able to keep this team ticking over. But we've seen this script play out with City before, right? We get the points, everything's humming, coming into Christmas, and then it just all starts to pile up. Is there something to the increased depth this year? How is he going to manage the end of this season differently than he has in the past and keep City in these competitions? We know that they're out of the Carabao Cup, but that's not going to change Pep Guardiola going for the treble at the end of the year. How is he going to make that happen this year where he hasn't in the past?
I think the Carabao Cup is part of it. That's 3 or 4 games, or I think they would have been in the quarters. So 3 more games that they don't need to play. You're seeing a reemergence of Sterling over the last couple games that I don't know if I like that. I was kind of hoping he was showcasing himself to them, maybe move on. But with the injuries to Foden and Grealish, it's been nice to have him start to gain some confidence back. I think that pieces have to fall correctly because Pep hasn't changed his mindset that he's going for all trophies at all times, and the pieces just haven't fallen at the right time. And if as long as he doesn't outsmart himself, I think that, which he probably will, they're going to be in the running for all 3 of the remaining trophies they're going for.
So the Ballon d'Or was given out today. No surprise, Messi won. They ought to just change it to the Lionel Messi Ballon d'Or. But 20% of the teams 20% of the finalists were City players. Pretty good turnout when you consider. De Bruyne led the way with 8th. Raheem Sterling was in 15th. Riyad Mahrez in 20th. Phil Foden making his first appearance in 25th. And Ruben Diaz 26th. Beyond Messi winning the Ballon d'Or, and we can all have a good laugh about that. And after this, Larry, what did you make about City's representation? How many of them were on the list and where they ended up finishing in the voting? Any surprises?
Injuries kept De Bruyne out of the top 5, I believe. I think that Ruben Diaz should have been higher. I was surprised with Foden. I love him, but he's too young, or he hasn't been able to take over a long period of time to really warrant being in there. He's a fan favorite, and he's going to be a great player, assuming he stays healthy. Mahrez really stepped up. He's been a very, very, very good piece. I was a little surprised at Sterling, just because over the last 4 or 5 months, he really has not been a key part of their team. Very happy with their, with the representation. I thought that they were fair. Again, Foden shouldn't really probably have been in there, in my opinion, but I was happy with it. I can't really see anybody else on their team that should have been there that wasn't there. But I think De Bruyne could have been top 5 if not for injuries.
So another good weekend, the Champions League for City. I believe I got to pull up the result, but how you guys? We talked about the group. Yeah, picking up another win over PSG. We talked before at the outset about the group being tough. If they have managed to negotiate this one pretty well, how does that make them look when they go for the how do you feel about them moving forward in this competition in the Champions League, which has to be ultimately the goal? That's the one that they haven't won. That's the one that Pep hasn't won without Lionel Messi.
Well, I think that their group ended up being a little bit easier just because they caught Red Bull at the right time before they've and then who knows if they're going to turn their regular season around. They're definitely playing better than they did in the beginning of the season in the Bundesliga and how they started off their Champions League campaign. I was very, very happy with the win over PSG. They went down. It was basically a mirror image of the first game that they played each other, where City dominated stats, dominated possession. and just missed their opportunities. And I kind of thought it was going to be a similar outcome after when PSG did score, but they fought back. They kind of showed something that whether it'll stay or not, they kind of showed something that they are a legit team. And it all really depends on who they're going to play. I mean, any team that's playing Bayern, that's going to play Liverpool, that's going to play Chelsea, it's whoever shows up on those days. I'm happy that they got rid of the away goals this year, but it'll be interesting. I mean, I really think it's a 4 or 5 team race, maybe a 3-team race for the Champions League.
All right, so we're going to turn our attention from Man City and talk about this Ballon d'Or. Lionel Messi wins for the 7th time. Larry, your comment on our group chat before the show was, what a joke. So I'm going to give you a chance to lay into the 180 voters on the Ballon d'Or and tell us why you think that Lionel Messi shouldn't have won.
We all know he's arguably the best player that's ever touched a soccer ball. There's no debating that. But as I think it was also mentioned on the chat, this is not a lifetime award that they're giving out. This is based on a yearly performance, and the fact that Lewandowski got what the stats that he put up. He's in a similar league compared to what La Liga was, and and even more of an easier league with PSG. Not that he's put up stats with PSG, Messi hasn't. It's just I feel like people saw his name, they know what he can do, what he has been, and it's been so skewed, and it's a shame. In my opinion, it's a shame that the year that Lewandowski had at Bayern and had in the German tournaments, I feel like he was robbed of it. Messi had a great year too. It wasn't like he was injured and he didn't play and he didn't put up numbers as well, but the numbers that he put up, that Lewandowski put up, I feel like he was robbed.
Instead, it seems like this thing has gotten awfully skewed towards the Champions League and summer tournaments, right? And if Messi doesn't win the Copa America, it's probable that he did. Lewandowski scored all the goals. He won the Golden Boot. He won the Bundesliga walking away, but Bayern doesn't win the Champions League, and Poland's a non-factor in the Euros. Number 3 was Jorginho. It was a bit of a surprise to me, but I think this is how it's based on tournaments. Like, Jorginho was the guy who won with Italy and won a Champions League with Chelsea, but at any minute, did you really think like Jorginho was the best player on either one of those teams?
No. The emphasis on the international tournaments and the complete disrespect for the domestic leagues, it shows you that when you have leagues that are built the way these leagues are built, you have lots of different domestic followings that sadly is most people who follow soccer don't really know everybody as they should. And when do they get a chance to see any sort of comparison? It's in these international tournaments or in these UEFA club tournaments that are basically also international tournaments. It's put it this way. If Messi doesn't win the Copa America, even though this Copa America was put together with some duct tape, a few Band-Aids, and some rope, he's not going to get the award. So it's obvious that it's anything that requires an international audience carries significantly more weight. Is that fair? Well, what I don't like about it is it seems if you were born in the wrong country, or if you chose to represent the wrong country, your likelihood of winning this award is completely thrown out the door. I'm sorry. Think of it this way. If Sadio Mane and Mo Salah have equal seasons, Sadio Mane is winning that award because Senegal is a more recognizable international team, even though Egypt has a better record when it comes to the Africa Cup of Nations. But when you think internationally and around the world, more people know players who play for Senegal than play for Egypt. And that is what I think is a bit unfair. It's unfair. But when you think about the award in general and the gala behind it and everything like that, it's also still going to be primarily a moneymaker. And you have to understand that they're going to obviously pick the players who have the biggest cachet. in the world. And you know, that's okay. I think the only problem with it in the end is that you're going to see this award meaning less and less and less and less as it moves forward.
It's if it couldn't mean any less than it does right now, because I think it's been so diluted by the emphasis that they've put on just basically handing it to Messi or Ronaldo. You know, it took Luka Modric leading Croatia to the European champion, to the World Cup final, and Real Madrid winning a Champions League in the same year for him to win it. And I think had Croatia not won that, had not made it to that final, it probably would have been Messi or Ronaldo again. And you would have been looking at like 9 years. That, you know, I think you're right insofar as if Lewandowski played for Germany instead, he'd have probably had 2 by now. Agreed.
Absolutely agree. I think that goes without question. I think it goes without question. And sadly, you know, even though, you know, Messi says the right thing, you know, he's like, look, I didn't win. Lewandowski, you deserve to win this award. He can give him the award all he wants, but we still know who the voters are. And we know who voted for this. And a lot of former winners are also voters, but it's still, it's still an award based on voting. And you know, once you take the control and put it into the hands of people who clearly have biases and access to grind, the legitimacy of the award, yeah, exactly. It's just not there anymore. But it's just kind of funny that even on the chat line, Mike, you were very clear to say, we'll talk about this for a little bit, but not that much, because most people really don't care anymore.
No, I think that was it. I did find it interesting that there were 3 England youngsters in the top 10 for Young Player of the League year, led by Jude Bellingham, who was second behind Pedri, and then Mason Greenwood, and I think Bukayo Saka was also in there as well. So that bodes well for the England team that had quite a few representatives. Yes, I know Sean has reason to get excited now, because maybe, just maybe, there's enough there that they can translate that into something that is team silverware as opposed to individual accolades. All right, well, Larry, we want to thank you for coming on and joining us. Hopefully we can catch you before you roll out of town, but otherwise, enjoy your vacation.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure. Good talking to you. And I will be bringing the iPad, so I will do what I can to jump on even for a couple minutes and show off the, you know, I'll make you guys all jealous with my view. And
yeah, I know that it wasn't just because you enjoy talking to us at 8 o'clock on a Monday. It's because you want to show off the view and make us all feel bad that you're in Punta Cana and we're not.
Yeah.
You guys have a good one, all right?
Take care, have
brother.
a good one.
See you guys.
And our dear friend representing Leo Messi and Crisscross.
Yeah, I didn't want to write Messi on the front side and ruin this uniform that I never wear. So, you know, the one time a year I wear it, why not today? So there you go.
How goes it, G?
And by the way, it's the Ballon d'Or is a farce, Mike. I know we finished talking about it, but how Thierry Henry never won the Ballon d'Or.
It's a load of crap. It's a load of crap.
Exactly. I've stopped following it ever since.
Agreed. I mean, the fact that he had 2 of the greatest Premier League seasons of all time and didn't win. I think he got second one year. I was like, okay, this is 20 years ago. You're like, okay, this is a load of crap. This doesn't mean anything. Sean, you hit the nail on the head there. You hit the fact that the only player in the Premier League to win it was Michael Owen. It's pretty sad.
Yeah. And that's only because he went to Madrid.
Yeah.
And the fact that Thierry Henry didn't win it when it was actually still an award primarily awarded by French writers.
Yes.
This is before FIFA took it over and kind of merged it with the FIFA Player of the Year, and basically, like the Heisman Trophy in the NCAA just bought it. It tells you a lot about it. You know, I would have liked it's like the Heisman at this point in time. You know, over here we all know that the Heisman Trophy winner is probably most likely going to be the quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide, barring any unforeseen changes.
Or running back.
Yeah.
Well, no, you have to go for. It has to be the quarterback of the Crimson Tide, then the quarterback of Oklahoma.
No. Actually, it's quarterback of Oklahoma or running back of Crimson Tide. A quarterback of Crimson Tide has never actually won it, which is surprising. But yes,
Okay.
you
Or
need to
wide
be the best.
receiver.
Yeah,
You need to be a good quarterback for the Oklahoma or a running back for the Crimson Tide. And if you do that, then you're pretty much sure to win it. That only one primarily defensive player has ever won, it tells you. But I think that goes to a larger discussion about it, is the fact that
Dominican Sue should have won too. That's ridiculous.
Dominican Sue should have won, and Orlando Pace should have finished higher.
Orlando Pace should have won too.
You know, and you guys kind of beat me. Like, it's always like the defenders who never really get the recognition. Like, Buffon, all these great years he's been putting up, nothing. I know he hasn't won anything with the national team, but the goalies are always kind of the unsung heroes. The defenders are kind of the unsung heroes, but it's always the goal scorers, the flashy guys that win these awards. And it's one of those things that,
and even where you're from, Edouard Mendy brought up a good point, saying if he didn't choose to play for Senegal, he probably would have been up for this award. And the fact that he wasn't is really, really a shame. I mean, he has been the best goalkeeper in Europe, if not the world, for the past year. And it's sad that he wasn't there.
Well, I think also part of the thing with Edouard Mendy, at least this year, was when you look at the calendar year, he didn't clearly emerge until later on as just a clear-cut number one, I am the guy at Chelsea. For a while, they were going with both him and Kepa for reasons unknown. But, he is. Why,
But imagine if he had played for France, though, and not.
Imagine if he had played for France. But I want to go back to what you said about Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. If Sadio Mane and Mo Salah and Liverpool win the league and win we said it's bigger, it's more on the Champions League. If they win the Champions League, but then Egypt, who has a much better record in the African Cup of Nations than any other team. I mean, they've won it 5 times. Senegal will be
7 times.
Yeah. Senegal will be the favorites, and they should be, because they're probably the best team right now in top to bottom, front to back, in all of Africa. But if Egypt wins it, would you be at all surprised if Mo Salah does not finish ahead of Sadio Mane?
No, I think you missed the point. But what I was saying was more of like who's the more sexy national team in a World Cup setting. That's really what I was getting at.
Yeah.
You look at Egypt. They have not, for some reason, no one seems to be able to understand why Egypt hasn't done better in the World Cup, even qualified as much, because they've been dominant in the African continent, absolutely dominant. And having seen them be, with recent technology, being able to watch them play in African tournaments, they are the best team in Africa. But for some reason, when it comes to qualifying and performing on that big stage, it just can't seem to, whereas Senegal recently has. So my point was simply that I can imagine in the eyes of people who are based out of Europe, it's much easier to identify with Senegal than it is to identify with Egypt. That was my only point I was making.
Okay, and it doesn't hurt that Senegal is a French-speaking country.
Exactly. That was my point. Read my mind.
We'll also get on this one, because we're going to talk a little bit later about it. We got to pick on Chelsea Mike with the Club World Cup. Chelsea got their route through, and they will face possibly El Ahly, who are the Asian Confederation winner. Out of Saudi Arabia, but half of Egypt's first choice team
is on Al Ahly.
It's on Al Ahly,
and the other half is on Zamalek. So,
and the African Cup of Nations and the Club World Cups play at the same time. So Al Ahly won't have most of their players to compete in that tournament, because they'll all be with the national team
for AFCON.
And Chelsea Mike is going to have an argument against Jorginho not winning Player of the Year too. He had a phenomenal year with the international as well as Chelsea, winning trophies left and right. I hate to say it, man.
No, but you are the resident Italy fan, and I was thinking about this when I was reflecting on Jorginho's season, and in watching them, even as a midfielder, more of a holding defensive midfielder, I never saw him as like the guy that was driving either one of those teams. You know, when I think about Italy and the star performer for Italy in the Euros, you know, for most of that tournament, for me, the name that comes to mind immediately is Spinazzola, not Jorginho. I thought Jorginho had a good tournament, but I think of Chiesa and I think of Donnarumma and I think of Spinazzola. I don't necessarily think of Jorginho. When I think of Chelsea, my mind immediately goes to, and why they won, I think of N'Golo Kante. I think Jorginho had a great season, an understated season. He took the penalties. He did what he was asked to do. But I think part of the reason why he finished perhaps as high as he did was simply because Chelsea won the Champions League and Italy won the Euros, and he was the only player on both teams. Had it been something else, I don't know that he would have finished as high. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to reward him because both of his teams won major trophies this year, as opposed to, he just never struck me. And I don't know, you're the Italian guy. Did Jorginho ever strike you as the guy that was like,
it always seemed like he was at the right place at the right time kind of stuff. Was watching the Euros and everything. It just seemed like as that central midfielder that he was kind of coming back defensively. He was stopping everything. He was diving, sticking his leg out to block passes and everything. He was kind of that scrappy, kind of that glue that kind of held everyone together. He was behind the scenes kind of guy. And I don't quote me on this, but I believe he got player of the game, one of the games, maybe the semifinals or the finals, something like that, where you can tell that he was everywhere. So it's one of those, like, you kind of have to watch him actually play. Yeah, he doesn't have that flashy name. He doesn't have that, that's your first thought. But if you actually kind of watch his game, he was a huge integral part of both teams. So I think he got third overall this year for voting. I can argue a little bit more, but that's just me being Italian. And
I mean, I'm fine. I'm willing to.
You got that 9-syllable last name, G. You got it.
Yeah, right. This is much easier.
I know that this is based on last year, but I'd say two things. One, did you see him against Man U on Sunday?
He scored a penalty, but he also gave away the goal.
He gave away the stupidest goal I've ever seen in my life. And by the way, Mike, you're wrong. He missed his penalty in the Euro finals in the penalty shootout. So there we go. That's why he didn't win.
No, I mean, I didn't say he made this penalty in the shootout as much as he made some penalty. I said he made some penalties.
Oh, no, he's a penalty taker for Chelsea.
And Italy. He made some of his penalties. He didn't make it in that game. But yeah. No.
And it sucks, Mike. You're going to be talking about this all, even though you don't want to, you're going to be talking about this all show. The new person coming on, you're going to have their own little spin on it. You're going to be, just don't fight it, man. Just don't fight it.
Yeah, I'll go back. I'm going to hesitate to bring it up because, you know why? I can do it right now because the only time that I'm wasting is y'all's time to talk about Arsenal, and I'm fine with that. But
we know what's going on Thursday, so hey.
Yeah, when it comes to talking about something that I actually want to talk about, then I'll steal the conversation in a different direction. But
it's so funny when tides have turned. Beginning of the season when Mike and I don't know, Lowe's were talking a lot of stuff, and when things are kind of going around, nobody wants to talk about their teams anymore. It just seems kind of weird to me. So,
well, we do have that. I will be willing to rag on, and I do think that Arsenal go into the game on Thursday as favorites, right? The stretch has.
I will say that. I wouldn't go that far.
Not with the English bookies.
I don't see how, based on performance right now, you could make Man United the favorites. I guess if it wasn't Arsenal, it would have to be draw. I don't see where there's nothing I have seen out of Manchester United, even in the game against Chelsea, where it was last chance defending. You're without 3/5 of your starting backfield. You're probably going to need to play them again like they played Chelsea. I know that Chelsea can offer some different things going forward, but I don't see how you can feel confident in a team that is playing without confidence to say that they're going to go in and beat them. Now, Arsenal hasn't been flashy, but they have been consistent. And they've been getting the points, they've been getting wins, they've gotten themselves up to fourth, right? So why wouldn't, tied for fourth
Tied for
on
fourth,
points.
yeah.
Tied for fourth on points. Goal differential, and we can talk to
10
Andy
goals
the Hammer.
behind there.
Yeah, we can talk to Andy the Hammer about altitude sickness and whether or not Moyes can keep this West Ham team up there at a different.
We got to get college football season over, and then we'll get Andy on.
Yeah, but I mean, Sean, I know there's the Arsenal pessimism, but you have to be feeling a certain amount of confidence going into this game that this is a Manchester United team that is as much there for the taking as anyone that you've competed against at Old Trafford in quite a while.
Yeah, well, our record at Old Trafford is not great. I think we've only won there once in the last 10 seasons. And in fact, there was one point where we were just going to Old Trafford and getting absolutely hammered.
Yeah, we're getting murdered.
Partey changed that when we won 2 seasons ago. I think we beat you 1-0. He played particularly well. The English bookmakers, by the way, are making Man U firm favourites at just below even money. And so if you really fancy us, Mike, get your money on Arsenal because we're 5-2. So put your $10 down to win 35 back.
I probably would. And we all know that bookies just make bets to get money on both sides so that they're covered.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the odds they're offering for the draw are quite high. So the bookies believe it's not going to be a draw. And that's probably where I would agree with them. I think we get the game fairly confident. What was very interesting this past weekend was that although we had suffered our second worst defeat this season, and again, were unable to score at Anfield, Mikel Arteta stuck with the youngsters that he put out at Anfield. And I've got to sort of applaud him for that in a way, because most of us believe that Tierney would come back at left back, that he might change things around in central midfield. I was lucky enough to watch all of the game on Saturday, and we put in a good performance. But I have to say, to counter what you're saying, I also thought United played particularly well at Chelsea. And I know the stats will say, I think Chelsea had 24 chances or shots on goal, and Man U didn't. But what impressed me was the pressing game, which I hadn't really seen from Man U for quite a few games. So whether Carrick had put that in place with regards to your new manager or your interim manager having taken over today, because that was very much sort of Ranić sort of style, should we say. So it'll be interesting. I think you'll try and adopt the same thing with 70,000 spectators shouting and screaming at the team. So I'm not going to sit here tonight and predict an Arsenal victory, but I am looking forward to the game on the whole, and I think it will be an interesting game.
I think it'll be an interesting one. It's the end of what has been a hellacious run of fixtures, just in the quality of teams that United has had to play. They'll catch a little bit of a respite until the middle of January in terms of quality of teams haven't had to go through Liverpool, Chelsea, City, Spurs, now Arsenal with a Leicester thrown in there. So it's the last of a very tough month and a half run, and we've seen that they just haven't come out of it particularly well, and it cost Ole his job. As far as the pressing game, I think that is something that Carrick wanted to do on his own more so than, I'm going to do this because I want to show Rangnick that I can. He has expressed that he thought that was something that they should be doing, and that was an effective way to play. So he set the team up to do more of that. We saw some of the benefits. They pressed, it got them some opportunities. It got them their only opportunity. If it wasn't for any of the pressing, they would not have forced Jorginho into the mistake, which was probably the best chance, the only real chance that they had the entire game. And I have to agree with them. If you're going to play that sort of 4-4-2 diamond that he did, then you have two options. You can either play with the likes of Sancho and Rashford up front and start pressing, or you can leave Cristiano Ronaldo up there by himself and start pressing a little bit further back, but he can't do anything. And I think it works a little bit better with the players that he had, because we've talked about this amongst ourselves. When you have Ronaldo, Ronaldo's not going to track back. You know, he hasn't since 2008. You know, his knee injuries, the extent to which he even has that backwards mobility anymore is debatable. He's not, but
miles on those legs.
Yeah, but the problem with that is when he doesn't, Bruno Fernandes tries to overcompensate for the fact that Ronaldo's not. Bruno gets pulled out of position, which means that all the midfielders get pulled out of position. So they weren't pressing because they couldn't get the right team. Ole didn't have the wherewithal to say, you know, I'm going to drop Ronaldo. And we saw the last couple of matches that the team that he has sent out has been a little bit more solid defensively. So that's going to be the question. Can that defensive solidity hold up against Arsenal? And Arsenal, you know, we've talked about the formation. It's more of a 4-4-2 type of formation that he's been playing recently. It's one of the few times that you're going to see that, and how, look, we don't have Harry Maguire, we don't have Rafa Varane. Can Lacazette and Aubameyang get behind and among and cause problems for Victor Lindelof, who is not the fleetest of foot, and Eric Bailly, who, while one of the most athletic central defenders I've ever seen, is a calamity waiting to happen. You can easily get him to overcommit. So I do think, Sean, I agree with you. I think there's some goals in it on Thursday. 2-2, 3-2 would not surprise me, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it was 3-1 Arsenal.
Let me jump in here. My biggest concern though about this game, yes, Arsenal's form has been pretty good lately. We've proven that we are not as good as the top four. We're not. I mean, say what you want. West Ham is good, and they're good. And seeing how they played against City in those conditions and how they went down 2-0 and still managed to get a goal in, that's a good team. And I don't see them falling for some reason. I could easily see them competing for Champions League late in the season. What concerns me, though, is the fact that Aubameyang is still not scoring goals. That's concerning. And you have a guy on £250,000 a week who was a 2-time 20-goal scorer back-to-back seasons and a Golden Boot winner, is not scoring goals. And I applaud his effort. He's playing harder than I've seen him play in a very long time. He's tracking back. He is trying to get behind the defense. He's trying to set up his teammates. But the goals aren't happening. And sadly, that's the only stat that really matters. And when you still are sitting with a goal differential of -2, even though you're in fifth, there's a serious problem with goal scoring outside of the top three teams. There's a problem. And if Arsenal wants to be able to stay up there and really actually be a top four team, they've got to score goals. They just have to do it. And until I see them, I'm very proud of the way they're playing. And if you had told me that we would be down 11 goals to nothing after playing Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City and still being fifth and tied for fourth on points, I would take that, especially after early in September. But I'm concerned, and I'm concerned that the goals from the people who should be scoring are not happening. Look who scored the 2 goals over the weekend. Martinelli got his first goal in over 12 months, and Bukayo Saka is getting better and better and better every game, and he's probably not going to play on Thursday. So I'm nervous. Yes, I am a pessimistic fan, because don't forget, the teams I follow in the United States never win anything. So the fact that I am a little tempered, you guys should understand that. But just moving forward, though,
here's a great thing that's on our side, though.
Really quick. How often have we seen a team that's getting their butts kicked left in and left right? They play Arsenal and they seem to win. We've just seen this narrative. I've read this book. I've read this comic book. Not as many times as you have, Sean, but we've read this comic book so many times, and it is so frustrating, and it scares the living daylights out of me.
Yeah, and agree. And until we get this solidified, we're on the right track, this up and down, I agree, man. It's kind of like biting nails every single game. Who's the right Arsenal? And one thing I want to kind of talk about is, thank God we sucked last year. Thank God we sucked really bad last year. because if I do remember, Man U played a game, last Thursday, last Sunday, this Thursday, like they're getting beaten around where Arsenal doesn't really have these extra games where we're actually being healthy right now. And I really do think it's really playing in our advantage. And yes, Stead, you're absolutely right. Our goal scoring is down. It sucks. That's one thing that we need to get better. But because we sucked last year, it's really going to be to our advantage this year. And for us to be in the top 5, I can see it because West Ham's got Euro games. Everyone else above us has games, in Europe. We don't. So we have to just say everything is just domestic, keep us healthy, and we have a chance. And yeah, I think the top 3, they're taking off right now. Mm-hmm. But 4 through 7 right now, we're kind of locked in. I really do think we can catch West Ham just because we have – but we have the freshness. They might have, like, on paper, the stats, but once the injuries kind of come in because they're playing more games, things happen. We still have a long season. We're just getting into December. And out of 21 points this month, I think Arsenal gets 17 out of them. I really don't think we will drop any games. I think West Ham and Man U, I think we'll have draws. If anything, I think Man U will win. So I'll keep the faith.
But Sean, there's something in the water in East London. There's something in the water over there. I don't know what's going on.
I think we have a better squad in depth than West Ham. The problem West Ham will have.
I agree.
The one time our team we can be positive and be successful. We got to revel in this right now. It's been a very long time, and the way we're going, we got to look at all these small positives and a small picture. Small things make a bigger picture alive, and these lot of small steps are in our favor this year. Where all these ties last couple years, we would tie. Last year we would lose them. Now we're winning them. Like these small little baby steps right now are going in the right direction for Arsenal, and thank God and hopefully, praise to God, that we kind of went over that little bump, and we're on the right road to going back to where we were 15, 20 years ago.
I agree with Sean. Go ahead, Sean. What were you going to say?
Yeah, if you looked at a league table that ran from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, and obviously we're not at the end of December yet, but at the moment we sit 3rd in that league. Arteta had a fantastic end to last season where we lost all the points was prior to Christmas last year, and we've started the league quite well. So the stats show that we are definitely on our way back. There's no doubt about that. What we have for the first time in a very long time is a defence. We actually have a defense for the first time.
That is
and if
true.
you've got a defense,
I love the defense. I love the way that team's playing deep.
You can build and you can move forward. We know we're one central midfielder short. And as Stead said, it's a bit worrying that our star man has stopped scoring. But to be fair, he is most effective, as we saw when he scored all those goals for us, when we're putting the ball over the top or through. And we're not playing like that anymore.
No, that's one thing, too. Our stats are down on long balls. We are the worst at. We're like 16th. We got to be higher than that. We got to be at least top 10.
But there's strong rumours that we have 80 million quid in the bank and we are looking to buy someone in January. I don't know who they're after, but if that person is available in January, and there's a lot of good players out there who are coming towards the sort of middle end of their contracts. I know that Isaac from Sociedad is one that they're looking at. We need someone who can play with their back to goal, hold the ball up. But no, I'm confident. I was looking at we're level points with West Ham now.
We are.
Let's have this debate at the end of December, Stead. There are 7 Premier League games in December.
I hope listen. If this will be if I'm wrong, this will be some of the best tasting crow I've ever had in my life, and I will enjoy it.
We will have this discussion later. Right now, though, we're going to welcome in our good friend Celtic Cam to tell us all about what is going on with Celtic and the other happenings in the land of enchantment, also known as Scotland. Cam, how goes it? Happy Thanksgiving. I saw your breakfast. I hope the haggis was good over the weekend.
Oh yeah, still finishing it. Still got about a pound to go. But it was it's been a kind of up and down for Celtic, couple of wins at home, but then that loss to Leverkusen, which was looking to be a really good game, and then as luck would have it, we lost 3-2 and are now out of the Europa and into the always favorite Conference League. That star-studded competition.
We had talked. It was always going to be a reach, even after the Sociedad win. for them to get the points necessary to overtake Sociedad and finish in second place in that group. We said that, the Conference League may be not the worst thing for them. They can pick up the revenue, they can continue playing after January, and that's a competition. While it will take them to and be inconvenient in terms of travel and the expense of travel, but it's also one that gives them an opportunity to maybe go a little bit further and to play additional rounds of ties that, let's be honest, we haven't seen Celtic in the knockout rounds of a competition, and I can't remember how long it's been. So even that loss, to be competitive with Leverkusen for as long as they were, I think you have to look at that as a balance. And again, these last two showings against Leverkusen and Sociedad in the win have been different than any performance that I've seen from Celtic in Europe in a long, long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to agree. I think as well, it shows that people have to remember that we are in a rebuilding season. We've brought a lot of new people in this season. We have a new manager. I think you're absolutely right. I think a smaller competition like this might be good for Angie to really get his hands around European football, some of the new players that we've had that maybe haven't played in European football, and really to kind of run a test to see if, his process, his strategy is going to work in Europe against other teams.
What were you going to say, Sean?
You get the chance to beat Spurs, hopefully, Cam. I didn't realise that you fell into the other bloody competition, whatever nonsense that is, but at least you get the chance to beat Spurs.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't know they were in there. That'll be
you get the chance to beat Spurs. So the gap is 4 points again, as it has been. But we have another Old Firm derby coming up, a chance to make up some ground. Maybe even go into the new year close to or with a 1 point difference. The league campaign has kind of gone in that direction for them, and Celtic and Rangers really, I don't want to say pulling away. Hearts and Dundee United are giving it a good chase, but we kind of know where that's the direction that it's going to head. What should we be looking forward to as we kind of now
Motherwell. Look forward to Motherwell.
Well, Celtic beat Aberdeen 2-1 this weekend, so there goes my team in this competition. But what should we be looking out for in the league? Let's start with this. How have Hearts and Dundee United kept up this chase for as long as they have, and not let Celtic and Rangers get too far out in front of them?
Yeah, it's kind of wild with Dundee, having been relegated and then moving back up into, sort of our Division 1, so to say. It's been pretty impressive. The manager's name is is out of my mind right now, but it seems like he's done a really good job on such a small budget that he has. I think it's been really impressive. They've managed to tie Celtic twice this year when playing them, which, for a team that size is really impressive. Hearts, again, as we mentioned, they're always in that kind of grouping of third, fourth, or fifth. So no major surprises there. I think in terms of what we should be looking out for, there's a big game this week, Hibs Rangers. Last time Hibs and Rangers played, Rangers lost 3-1 to Hibs in the League Cup. So I think this could be a big opportunity for Celtic if they could win against Hearts to pull some of those points back and be a little more competitive in trying to get to that first place position. Similarly, after we play Hearts this week, we're then playing Dundee again. So that's kind of another game we need to win and not tie in order to kind of close that gap a little bit. So, the next couple of weeks of Scottish League football, I think it's going to have a really big impact on where Celtic and Rangers stand in the tables.
So elsewhere in Scotland, you talked about Rangers, you talked about that game coming up against Hibs. What do you make of some of the other teams? Aberdeen's been struggling. Aberdeen's been struggling a lot. Some of the teams out lower in the division, how are they faring, and can they pull themselves out of this?
Yeah, I was a little surprised with St. Johnstone. I had a really good outlook for them this year based upon how they played last year, especially with not a whole lot of turnover in their team roster. No managerial changes. I was a little surprised that they're sitting ninth right now. I really thought they'd be up there. Same with Livingston. Livingston are always a competitive team with Celtic. I thought they'd be a little bit higher. And then, Hibs sitting under Motherwell is also a bit odd. I think that may shift going into, the beginning of next year. They're only about, I think, 3 points separates them. So I think that's going to be an area of contention. As we already mentioned, Dundee United's they're really impressing me this year. I wouldn't have ever told you that they'd be in fourth coming into the end of the year. It's really, really impressive. And I think it shows that these small teams do have a fighting chance against teams like Hibs or Hearts, things like that. So, St. Johnstone, Aberdeen, Livingston, really odd that they're so far down the table. I would see them in fourth, fifth, or sixth. Maybe seventh, but eighth, ninth, and 10th is a weird one for me.
Yeah, and looking like they may put a spanner in the works of the split because everybody was forecasting them to be up there and they may not make it, which would be very, very interesting. All right, so Cam, we'll get you back next week to talk a little bit more about Celtic and Scotland, and we're going to steer this conversation away to another. Instead, we need we have Scotland as the land of enchantment. We need to come up with a nickname for Germany.
How about land of bratwurst sausages? That's Austria. I don't know.
No. That you know what? I'm just going to stick with. I will nickname stuff. I will be in charge of nicknames on this show because I seem to do it a lot better.
Well, that's because your nicknames are basically let me point out the most obvious thing about something and then put it in front of their name. So let's see. We could call it Bierstein, Germany.
We'll come up with something. Byron Rob, how goes it? Talk about our hashtag.
Or how about 2 wars lost, Germany?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer to call it 2 Ballon d'Or lost.
Yeah, that's
Germany.
true. That's probably a better one. That's probably a better one.
Hashtag justice for Lewandowski.
Yeah.
Did Gerd Müller ever win the Ballon d'Or?
No. I don't think he did. Maybe
it's ridiculous. No cherry or
he might have, but I'm not sure.
Bloody joke, the Ballon d'Or.
Okay, but remember, Sean, up until a couple of years ago, it wasn't. It was just a strictly French newspaper writers' award.
It wasn't a French newspaper. It was there when I lived there when I was a young kid. It was run by France Football, and yes, at least yes. Go on then. Yeah.
It was a French award that was voted on by French football. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't a FIFA award that it has become. FIFA started their Player of the Year kind of in response to it. Right. I'm not shocked that Gerd Müller didn't win it.
He won it in 70. I just looked.
Oh, he did win it.
Oh, he did win it. Okay,
he won it in 70, and Beckenbauer won it twice in 72 and 76.
Okay,
and Rummenigge won it in 80 and 81. So there, and then Lothar Matthäus won it in 90.
Okay, so there have been some Germans that have won it, but we can still complain that Lewandowski didn't win it, and neither did Thierry Henry, who absolutely should have.
I'm wearing twice. Yes, I totally agree with Stan. Thierry Henry for a long time, and for those 2 years exactly, was magical. Should have won it. But I'm actually wearing this shirt because this is the same shirt that Lewandowski wore when he broke Gerd Müller's record, and there should have been a cinch for winning this thing. But whatever. See the hashtag, all right? I got words for it.
Yes, for those of you who are listening, not watching, Rob has up on his screen just hashtag justice for Lewandowski. It's been a bit of an interesting ride for Bayern with the COVID outbreak to start with, losing a bunch of players to a COVID outbreak. They managed to still get by Bielefeld this weekend, but they've had some bobbles, and they've been missing a significant portion of their senior squad as a result of these COVID protocols. So where do they stand with that? When are we going to start seeing some of these players be able to get back? And what exactly is the situation that they find themselves in as far as the protocols? Is this a case of these players not being vaccinated, which is kind of surprising given Germany's stance on that whole thing? Where are we?
Okay, so I'll take it little by little. So most of the players are back. Even Nicolas Sula, who of the 5 players who were under quarantine, either for being not vaccinated and being close contact or testing positive, Sula was the one that only had symptoms. Everybody else did not have symptoms. Okay, for the most part, almost everyone's back. The only person who's not back yet is Kimmich because he tested positive again, so he was still positive. So they're still waiting on him to finally get a negative test. He's not been training at all. Interestingly enough, a lot of us Bayern fans were kind of annoyed with his like kind of minutes because he has been playing a lot. He literally does not sit at all. So the very fact that this has forced him to sit a little bit is actually like not like we're sort of okay with it. All right, so the at one point there was only 5 players who were not vaccinated yet. It was Choupo-Moting, Gnabry, Musiala, Kimmich, and Cuisance. So Cuisance doesn't matter because he's on his way out. He's like a brat. All right, so forget about him. But the rest of them were important. So Gnabry and Musiala have just been vaccinated, which is a positive sign, and they're fine, no issues at all whatsoever. All have played some minutes. Even Sula played like a minute or two versus Bielefeld, so he should be fit for this weekend as well. So at one point it was so bad, and it might have been the game versus Augsburg or the Champions League match versus Dynamo Kiev. Bayern actually had 3 keepers on the roster, the starting keeper and 2 backups. That's how deep. I mean, that's how depleted the bench was. So yeah, it was pretty gnarly for a while. It looks like everybody's getting back healthy, but COVID is starting to become a thing again in the Bundesliga side of things. Leipzig has lost their starting keeper, Peter Galassi, with COVID as well, so he should be back soon enough. But yeah, Bayern, you're starting to see how important Joshua Kimmich is. Joshua Kimmich is like kind of the engine that runs things in that midfield, and he's the one that connects kind of like the back line and the forwards. And him not being on the field is devastating to Bayern. You're seeing it in their play. I mean, Goretzka is not a 6; he's an 8. And they're starting. And Tolisso played a little bit there as well this past weekend. He's been doing okay with there, but he's recovering from injury as well. So he just finally started to come back. So Bayern is a little bit in a flux, and it's gotten so bad that they've dropped points. Leverkusen were dropping points as well, and Dortmund, without Haaland, by the way, who just came back, is only 1 point out of first place. And so this Saturday is kind of important, because there's only a couple more matches left for this half of the season, and then everybody wants to know like who's going to be the first place at the end of the first half. So it's it's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm glad everyone's coming back. But Kimmich won't be back this Saturday, which is unfortunate. So it's just chaos, man. It's chaos over in Bayern, and that's only on the field. Let's not even talk about what happened at the membership meeting. All right, that's for another time. All right, it's crazy over there.
Well, you can't tease us like that and then not give us the goods. So talk about the membership meeting.
Okay, so here's what happened. So a member of Bayern wanted to put up a proposal to end the Qatar Airlines sponsorship. So that was a thing. They went to Bayern, did not want to put it up. A lower court said yes, you have to put it up for discussion, for a vote. And then a higher court said no, you could drop it. So then once the membership meeting actually started happening, they actually put it to a vote again, and then it became a lot of yelling because it was an illegal vote or two, right? Like the vote passed, but like it was not it's the board were saying it's a legal vote. The members were yelling at the staff. They were saying Herbert Heiner out, who's the president of Bayern at the moment, who came over from Adidas. He's the one that took over for I think either Uli Hoeneß or Rummenigge. I think it must have been Uli Hoeneß. He took over for that, and there was a lot of yelling back and forth. And then at one point, the Bayern membership called a vote to turn the fan ownership from 70 to 75%, and it narrowly missed getting the majority approval, or what the 75% approval you need to get to that point. And so pretty much it was a lot of yelling. There was a couple of members who did not get to speak, because they'll remember, if you want to speak, you get to speak. And they were yelling back and forth. Uli Hoeneß has said that it was the worst member meeting he's been a part of, including the one where a member actually went up to his face and yelled at him. So it's been chaos, mostly because of the Qatar Airlines sponsorship thing. They want this out. They want this done with. They don't even want the sponsorship extended, which is supposed to end in 2023, but they want it out of this now, mostly because of the human rights issue and stuff like that, especially with the building the stadiums of Qatar.
I know that it's a membership-owned club. With a few exceptions, every club in Germany has that 50+1 rule. How much authority do the members have? And we know that there are a lot of members. I believe you're a member.
I am.
How much power do the members have to actually weigh in on these sorts of business decisions? Because part of the fundamental workings of the club is that the members have given these boards a certain amount of authority over the commercial aspects of the club. So
typically in most German, even though most clubs in Germany are member owned, for the most part, it's simply just voting for like people, and then usually there's only one or two candidates on there, and if there is two candidates up for like elections to become a part of a board or a higher position, what typically happens is, like one's the overwhelming favorite, so it's almost like no contest, right? But the members because of this meeting, the members have said that they want significant change. If they don't get change, they will vote Herbert Heiner out, and they have the power to do it at the next meeting, which is next year, obviously, which is, I think, roughly around the time the World Cup's happening. So that is one of the powers that they have. And so the biggest problem that is preventing, really from Herbert Heiner really to be threatened is there needs to be someone in a position to make, someone needs to present themselves as a candidate to take over. So they could vote Herbert Heiner out, but they need to put somebody in there to replace him. And then obviously, there's a whole, they need to get the vote of like getting the vote of like somebody important, like Oliver Kahn, for example, is important, if you get their endorsement or whatever. So it's all a lot of political playing. So, I mean, we did a lot of yelling. Not we, but like I didn't do yelling, because you have to be in present to vote. You can't be like, a half world away like I was. But if things don't change, I think they're gonna try looking for change here, and they're gonna vote them out, and they have a whole year to find someone new to potentially replace them, and then hopefully, the members don't want that. They want it to come to that. They want this change done with the current people on hand, but we'll see. We'll see what's going to go on. But it got really contentious. It was kind of a beautiful to watch if you're a fan of like really taking control of your club.
I do take a certain amount of glee in a disorganized German meeting. Like Sean's like, hey, that's just a normal day in Parliament.
I was thinking the exact same thing. That's so non-German.
That's so. I wonder if they did they use their proper etiquette when they were yelling, like please and thank you.
I mean, no, I mean it was loud and it was very hostile.
Yes, but they all stood in line before they yelled.
they did, but it was a lot of speaking out of turn though. It really was. It was like Heiner out, and like you're against human rights and all that. So it got pretty nasty, at least compared to the previous Bayern meetings, because usually it just like reading the financials and like maybe electing somebody that like everybody knows is going to get elected because it's only one person on the ballot, and it's pretty much like just business as usual. But this was a really contentious meeting. It was a lovely to just be a witness and watching the updates from the journalists, because it was beautiful to watch.
So we're going to turn our attention to another aspect, I guess you can call it what you want to. Ralph Ragnick, the former manager of Hoffenheim and Schalke, and the architect of RB Leipzig, is going to be taking over at Manchester United. It's a bit of an interesting move. So from your perspective, as somebody who's watched his career in Germany, what do you make of this move, and what are United fans going to be getting in Ragnick?
I think it's a little confusing for me because Ralph Rangnick is somebody who loves control. One of the biggest reasons why he chose the Hoffenheim job is because it was pretty much the Dietmar Hopp, the owner, saying, here's my club, do what you want with it, I trust it all to you. And and then that's where Ralph Rangnick shines. He pretty much changes everything from the scouting to the training methods and to the style of play. And you need time with that, but also you need people who are ready to absorb that, and who want to learn, who don't have preconceived notions already. So you're not going to see everything that he's known for. You're not going to see the uber pressing that he really adopted, and others have adopted after him, like Klopp and Tuchel, and all that. So, and even Jesse Marsch, for example, who's trying to do it at Leipzig, and who did it at New York Red Bull as well. So you're not going to see that because United just don't have those players, and also it's the middle of the season. He doesn't have a camp to really, to really instill any of that. I think you're going to see some changes where you're not going to see some of the big stars like Pogba and Ronaldo constantly starting just because of name recognition. But there's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, you got to play these players. So him going to a big club like United and not having full control over the club is very interesting, because one of the reasons why he turned down the Germany job, the national team job, is because he wanted full control. And Oliver Bierhoff did not want to give that up, as somebody who wants to control kind of all aspects of the German FA. So I don't know if this will be a success. And then also you had the 2 years of the consulting role. I don't know what that involves. I don't know how much power he'll have. I mean, I don't know if he'll just provide suggestions and they'll say like, okay, we like them or we don't like them. I really don't know. So I don't know why he took this job. I mean, I guess for the Premier League check, but other than that, I mean,
Rob, does he speak English well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does speak English, because he definitely he's a worldly man. So he definitely speaks English, and obviously German. So I don't think he'll have a problem communicating as well. I don't know how strong his English is, so I don't know if he'll talk English at the press conference or not, or the post matches or whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. Because I know some of the English press have a thing, aka like Bielsa. The very fact that he's been there forever and doesn't speak English, still speaks through a translator. But no, I think he'll be fine. He'll communicate with the players fine. But this is probably one of the more diverse clubs and squads he's had. Most of the squads, especially at Hoffenheim, for example, have been very heavily German. Even Leipzig has some mostly German, but they have some people from like Austria and Switzerland and all that. So yeah, this will be interesting. I hope he does well, but I'm a little concerned because it's him taking on this project, or just taking on almost like a caretaker of sorts, is not him. It's uncharacteristic of him.
I think some of the stuff that you said, though, is interesting insofar as he wants to be around people who want to learn. He wants to institute changes. And United are going into a situation where frankly, they don't have a lot of institutional knowledge at the top. Somebody like him could easily come in and tell Darren Fletcher and all of those guys how to do their jobs. And
haven't you already got Sir Alex Ferguson stood behind them? You could probably tell them how to do their jobs, considering he was the most successful manager ever.
And yes, I appreciate the sarcasm and stuff, but apparently that's not working. I mean, no, but it's hard. It's like you've got Sir Alex Ferguson. I think one of the reasons why I might counter what Rob's saying and say, Ragnick with the consulting gig, it gives him the ability to have a significant say into how the club is going to operate on the field, but also not to be married to the day-to-day having to go to the office, 12 hours a day, if he doesn't want to. Now, the question is, does he get in and in 6 months say, you know what, not really feeling this whole interim thing. There's a lot more work. I want to hang around. My question is, how much of this stuff was negotiated ahead of time? Ragnick, I can't imagine, wouldn't take a job where he doesn't have the level of control that he would want to have, the level of authority that he would want to have. As you said, he turned down the Germany job because Oliver Bierhoff wanted to be the man and not surrender control. I can't see him saying, you know what, I'm just going to leave Lokomotiv Moscow right now and all the stuff that they're asking me to do to go over to this job and not have a clue. Just like I can't believe that the Ed Woodward and the Glazers could talk to Ralph Ragnick and say, hey, look, we've invested about $100 million in Cristiano Ronaldo over the next 2 years. Do you think you can use him? Because I mean, that would just be. Now, I could say, I could see United doing that, forgetting to mention that, because that just kind of seems like who they've got. But I also have to understand Ralph knows, like, this is the team. It's kind of obvious. Here are the players that I have. I either think I can do something with them, and I think I can do something with this club, or I can't. From a United perspective, it seems like the first sensible move that they have made since they talked Sir Alex Ferguson out of retiring the first time. So it will be very interesting. This is the biggest club by far that he's ever managed. And he really, Rob, when was the last time that he even managed at Leipzig? I think it's been like 6-7 years.
No, he was a manager right before Nagelsmann came into Leipzig. Then Ralph Rangnick took the sporting director job exclusively. At one point, he was doing both jobs, manager and the sporting director job, or director of football operations, or whatever you call it. And then so Nagelsmann came in, and then he was doing that for a little bit, because you got to remember, Ralph Rangnick was the manager when Jesse Marsch left New York Red Bulls and then came over to Leipzig, and he trained under Ralph Rangnick as an assistant manager, assistant coach, and then it's for half a season, and then he got the Salzburg job for a couple of years. So Ralph Rangnick did it like might have been 2017 or so. He was there. So not too far away, I believe part of the reason why he left managing as well was because I think he didn't want the day-to-day of it at all. He was tired of he wanted to sit up at the top, in the booth and just, collect data and institute.
Drink beer, obviously.
Yes.
Of course, we have the best beer, right? So no, he wanted control from that aspect. He didn't want the day-to-day up and down the sidelines in the training sessions and all that. That was not for him anymore. So, so him coming back, for the job, maybe, for all we know, it could have been like, look, we want you to, we want your knowledge, but at the same time, can you buy us some time until and help us find a manager, come June?
I really believe that's kind of where it is. And then the 2-year consulting gig gives him the ability to have all the authority that he wants without any of the real responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not like they're hiring him as sporting director, and if things go tits up, he has to bite the can. He's just a consultant. If things go belly up, he can walk away anytime that he wants. It's a 2-year consultancy gig. I think I think it's a good move on Manchester United's part. I think it's an interesting move on his part. I think he was negotiating from a position of strength, and he got the deal that he wanted. The interim manager, 2-year consultancy gig to help with the transition. It can go longer if he wants it to. If not, he's still going to get paid for his 2 years, whether whether he's in that job or not. He's going to collect his check, and if he gets frustrated with that situation and dealing with the Glazers, yeah, deuce high.
Yeah, no, and I will tell you, there are United fans that are going to wonder, like, why are we getting this guy, right? He doesn't have like his trophy case is not full, right? He has a Pokal trophy with Schalke, but a lot of the managers like Klopp and Tuchel, and even Nagelsmann to a degree, how they coach and their successes comes from what Ralph Rangnick did, at Hoffenheim and at Schalke.
And just out of interest, Rob, is Ralph a disciple of Bielsa?
I don't think so. So all the stories go that he kind of learned. He had a kind of like a coming to truth moment when he saw a club over in Eastern Europe. I forgot the club's name because I read about it recently, but like he saw them pressing all together, and that's kind of where like all of it started, where he came from. So the way I see it, Bielsa is a little bit different in that type of ball. Like they don't Bielsa like a lot of high octane stuff, but it's slightly a little different. So I think they came over to the same place, but from different places. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, Bielsa tends to go one-on-one when they haven't got possession of the ball. Mm-hmm. So their pressing is. So I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Ranieri's teams to know exactly how they play. But.
Yeah, no, it seems like like I said, I think the one good thing that he had with Hoffenheim is that a lot of those players were open to new ideas and they didn't know any better, so they just listened to what he said, and and they worked well as a team. They really wasn't like a standout player or two or even three. They all worked together, and so they got success together. So it's a different squad with United. There's a lot of personality. There's a lot of top level footballers out there. What's he gonna do with Ronaldo? I don't know. So
but he also comes in with a really strong reputation. I mean, this is not a guy who is who's a nobody. Yeah. And I think he can come in. He walks in the door with the gravitas. He may not have the greatest haul of trophies, but he definitely walks in with gravitas to say, all right, listen to me. I am going to set you up. And we all heard from the press conferences and everything that was said surrounding OGS and everything, it was they liked him, but they did not trust him. They did not feel like he had the gravitas and a tactical understanding to set them up in a position to win. Yeah. I think that Rangnick has the ability, he has training methods, he's going to give them the instructions and the things to do to go and say, this will set us up to win, right?
And also I think one of the most important things is if he has a say in the coaching hired, I think that's going to be key, because now when Solskjaer got canned and got sacked, all the fans are trying to figure out who's going to be the next manager, right? Who's going to be the next permanent manager. Now that Ralph Rangnick is going to be a part of the decision-making process, now you have to think totally differently. So it will be interesting to see what candidates will be available. But now I hope that he has a say in it, and he's setting up his successor up to have a smooth transition. So it should be fun.
I don't think it's even setting up just a successor. I think it's also training the front office in the form of Darren Fletcher. I think that, it might give them the ability to focus on a CEO who worries more about the commercial aspects of the game and leaves the on-field stuff to Ragnick and Darren Fletcher, you guys will worry about transfers and player. I'll go out and negotiate commercial deals. Ed Woodward, for better or worse, he was a great negotiator of commercial deals, right? He got sponsorships for spot. He negotiated, and you can laugh at that deal all you want to, but when you think about what that deal actually paid out at the time he got a deal that paid out an obscene amount of money from a company that does not actually sell a product in England.
Who? Which company?
Chevy.
Yeah, he did. In fact, was that not the spot? Are they the main sponsor or are they the training?
They were the main sponsor for 5 years, and Chevy
5 years.
So Ed Woodward got the money. The guy who negotiated for the deal at General Motors and Chevy got the can, because they're like, why are we spending $25 million a year, 25 million pounds a year to advertise on the shirts of a team in a country that we don't sell cars? We don't do business over there as Chevy. So in that respect, I think he got the Adidas deal, which was at the time the biggest kit deal that had been negotiated, right? Ed Woodward could negotiate the heck out of a deal, and he would get, and he could parse every single solitary sponsor. So you could have a deal where you had a kit sponsor for the game day jerseys, but then a completely separate kit for the pre-match jerseys and a completely separate sponsor for the training ground uniforms that they wore. I mean, but what he didn't know was running a football club. And that was where they fell short, and he just never was able to understand that. Now you're losing him. Ragnick can come in and ease that transition and hopefully give them some ideas of, all right, this is what we need to do moving forward. And again, he doesn't have to be there 9 to 5, 12 hours a day. He strikes me, and Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he strikes me as one of those managers who's going to be in the office an awful lot, and that can lead to burnout. I mean, if you're showing up at the training ground at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're not leaving until midnight because you're watching all the tape, and he definitely seems like a guy who would do something like that, that can be a lot. I remember a story about one of my friends told me about one of the coaches who used to coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This has nothing to do with the Glazers, but he said one morning he woke up in his car and he couldn't remember whether he had pulled into the driveway from work or he had fallen asleep going to work. So he just turned around and went back to the office. That's the level of intensity that goes on in the NFL season. I imagine that it's the same for coaches. He strikes me as that, and he's in his 60s. He may not want to do that now. So it makes perfect sense on this. So it's interesting to get your take on that. I was expecting Chelsea Mike to be on. He's running late. That means I don't have to talk about that game. And Rob, we can talk about the MLS playoffs.
Oof. I mean,
I know.
Chelsea might go here. So for those who
doggone it.
Hey, real quick though, it seems like the ratings though for these ABC games that they're playing on Sundays that are competing against NFL football are not that bad. And the fact that they're showing MLS playoffs at 2:00 on a Sunday and people are tuning in. Hey, I think I applaud the league though. You're doing something right.
Not only are the ratings not that bad for the games that they're playing against NFL football, but they've gone up against NFL football twice. They've gone up against NFL football 3 times. They actually put a playoff game on Thanksgiving, which is typically, I mean, Sean, over here, there are 3 NFL football games on, and that's it. Nothing else, aside from the occasional college basketball game, gets played. But it is Thanksgiving football. You do not
No,
play.
we had it all here. We had all the football on Sky here. Sorry, you're American.
Oh,
Yeah. But you like that is. I wrote an article about it. It is as American as the turkey itself. Like the Detroit Lions have been playing on Thanksgiving longer than Thanksgiving has actually been Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
That's how long that one goes back. That the idea that MLS would schedule a playoff game against the one of the MLS against. Well, they didn't schedule it against. They scheduled it. They found that sweet spot where they actually started it right before the Dallas game did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what you do is you're getting the fans that are probably sitting around going, some of these NFL games, the score is like 3-0 in the middle of the second quarter, and people are starting to get a little bored, especially if it's not a team that they follow, and they might switch over if they're soccer fans. Because I did. I switched over because I was like, I'm not really interested in this game, and the 4:00 game, we'll see what happens with that, and I ended up tuning in.
If it had not been for the fact that the people who were over at my house were not big soccer fans, I'd have left the MLS game on and then gone back to the Cowboys game later because I'm not a huge fan. I hate the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys with an undying passion. They're slightly behind in my list of things that I hate, slightly behind Fenway Sports Group and then it's like the Dallas Cowboys and then then Broccoli and Duke University, right? And I'm not
quite interesting. The Man City appeared nowhere on your list. Interesting.
I'm not sure. See, I hate Fenway Sports Group because that represents the Boston Red Sox and Liverpool.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, those are two things.
I got that bit. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, but those are two things that I have genetically been hating for decades, on top of decades, on top of decades. City Sports Group is a more recent vintage of things. I mean, what it has
Spurs is for me, you know.
Yeah,
Spurs haven't been good long enough for me to care about them. I hate Manchester United.
Yeah, like City is. And sometimes the opposite of love isn't hate. Sometimes the opposite of love is apathy.
True.
Like it's almost like
I left first 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just cannot. I've concentrated so much of focusing my hate on Fenway Sports Group.
Okay. You don't have any more hate to give.
I really just don't have a whole lot more hate to give. Yeah. Like it's just not there.
I know we've got Chelsea Mike on, but I'm really enjoying watching the hate that is growing between Chelsea and Spurs. That is quite interesting. The fact that it's almost taking over the Arsenal Spurs thing. The Chelsea Spurs thing is it's quite interesting.
All right, so Mike, before we get on,
you know, it's the top two teams in London have the biggest rivalry, and so thus we do.
All right, so I suppose that I've got to give you 30 seconds to talk about this game before we get on.
I didn't realize that you had such a rivalry with the West Ham going on. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fired.
I mean, here, fire this shot back. Top of the league for the last 2 months.
Dude, I was talking about that was a shot at Spurs, not Chelsea. Not paying attention, Mike. Come on, man.
I'm so triggered to be defensive now. That's
what I don't understand. It's like you guys are the defending champions of Europe. You're top of the league. But why are you guys so anxious?
Well, I'm sure you've noticed that Mike has been straight up firing bullets on the chat line lately, man. I'm like, what's up with you, Chelsea, Mike?
Yeah, it's like
you win everything. All of a sudden, you pull out your mic and you just start firing.
You want us to turn our attention?
Look, you could do one of two things when you're at the top of the league. You could sit there and let everyone build up their strength and resources to come at you, or you just fire them down and take them down a level, and that's what you've got to do when you're top of the league.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also this: we are so focused on other things that we're not paying attention to you. Think about it like Stalin. Nobody realized for many, many years what Stalin was actually doing in the Politburo. And by the time they realized what he was actually up to, he'd amassed so much power, nobody could actually do anything about it. Right. So
Well, if we had beaten you over this weekend, I would have felt that we would have been in that position where we're stalling, secretly skulking the banks, the too many guys soccer show, quietly just winning the league. But you guys put up a good game, and
so here's the question. Did Manchester United pick up points or did Chelsea drop them? Because that could have easily been a Manchester United win. The pressure was, the idea was it was on Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which is a place where Manchester United don't typically play that well. To come away with all 3 points, and you got one. Yeah. And you almost didn't get that.
You know what? But like, I appreciate the way that Man United did it, right? Like it wasn't just, all right, we went up 1-0 and we're going to put everybody in the box and we're going to defend against Chelsea and we're going to make Chelsea beat us. They put out an offensive threat, and like their response to going up 1-0 was, we're going to go up 2-0. And Chelsea's response to going down 1-0 was, we're going to win 3-1. And it was just an absolute, like, offensive substituted, offensive minded second half, which was, it was fun to watch. It was great.
It was entertaining. It was a little nerve-wracking because that next goal, either way, after 1-1, it could have changed a lot.
Right. Everything, like from Jorginho scoring that all the way up until Rudiger's attempt at the dying second. If Manchester United had pushed through a 2-on-1 break, that would have scored. If Chelsea would have worn them down and gotten it through. I will say that Chelsea did look way better after they put their substitutes in. Chelsea looked they were an almost better team. Like they were an A team to start the game, but they were an A+ team when they had Mount, Pulisic.
So we know that Mount, Pulisic, and Lukaku are all coming back from various forms of injuries.
Sure.
Ziyech didn't have his greatest game. Werner was,
Timo was there. He missed a sitter. He scored.
He didn't score. He missed a couple of sitters.
Come on. Let's face it.
No, I know.
Werner is seriously shit.
He was in the mix. He missed a sitter.
I love seeing how angry Werner gets when his easy goal is not delivered to him. He gets so salty because he's like, I can't score any other way unless I have a wide open net, and you cross the ball to me where there's no defenders. Outside of that, he missed that as well.
Yeah, he missed that as well. If he had an open net,
I think so. One of the things is, I think it's clear that, for example, Lukaku, when he is judged fit enough to play more than 30 or 40 minutes on a consistent basis, will be the starting center forward, and Werner will likely drop to the bench. Mount will likely make his way in. I guess he would be a natural replacement for Ziyech. I'm not 100% sure. But here's my question. Who takes over for Chilwell?
Alonso. It's probably Marcus Alonso, but there's Azpilicueta too.
Is there any thought, like he did bring in Pulisic as that sort of wing back in that system? I have seen Pulisic play a wing back at Borussia Dortmund, albeit very early in his career. I guess that's one of the problems when you've got that embarrassment of riches. How do you get them all onto the field when you need them?
Well, it's an interesting proposition if you want to take that position and make it a more offensive position. Like that's a good substitute in my book. when you what he did the other day was he sort of rotated the backs through there and just kind of put Pulisic up. I think that's a good option going forward if we get down. I mean, I think he's identified a positive thing. I mean, I don't think we're starting too many games with Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi and and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I mean, to me, I think Hudson-Odoi has potential out there as another maybe Reece James, Ben Chilwell in that specific role as a winger, which is essentially just a midfielder. But to me, I'm not Hudson-Odoi. I'll give credit to Loftus-Cheek. I don't know. I don't know about his long-term future. I think he's the kind of guy whose peak is just below Chelsea. Like, he's a solid Premier League player, but is probably not a top 5 player, top 6 player.
So, but I mean, when Conte comes back, when you get your midfield reinforcements, we know that he'll make his way back to the bench, and that'll solve that problem.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't have a whole lot of time, and I want to give you let me give you about 5 minutes to go over the lower leagues with Mr. Stead, and then we are going to wrap up the show. We're going to bring Byron Robb back on, and we are going to talk about the MLS playoffs, specifically the fact that the Philadelphia Union are in it.
And that Andre Blake is a god.
Yes. And that, and that New York Red Bulls are not. But so tell us what's going on in the lower leagues.
I mean, there's been some movement. I don't think we've done this in a whole calendar month, honestly.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while.
And I will say this just to lead this off. If you get nothing else out of the lower league segment tonight, Friday, 2:45, Fulham versus Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm.
They're 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
In the championship by a lot. They are
going.
It
looks like they're starting to pull away a bit with that. I mean, they're 7 points clear, just first and second. So it's almost like the two teams that are most likely to be promoted is already basically set. I can't see that gap lessening too significantly. Because you look at QPR's been in the best form they've been in years, and they're still 7 points out. So.
Yeah, QPR played a good game today too. By the way, coming back versus Derby County.
Sad. They're playing. Derby's not bad.
Dude, if Derby County hadn't been ducked all those points, they'd be challenging now. They'd be challenging for top 6.
They'd be mid-table, yeah.
But I mean, so this game coming up, it's at the beginning of the festive period. The winner of this is going to have a clear and distinct advantage. If you watch one lower league game this year, watch Fulham versus Bournemouth. It's Friday. It's at 2:45 Eastern time, 7:45 British time. Don't miss that one, because Fulham and Bournemouth have been, as we've noted, been pulling away.
Yeah.
QPR, impressive run of form, undefeated in their last 5. Like I said, they were down versus Derby County. Derby County's been a tough out, if you will, right? Like they're the chalk that you're supposed to beat because they're the bottom of the league, and they keep giving teams a tough time. And they won their first game back after they lost further points. But they've been a good story. And they're going to be a tough out. But QPR, though, they looked pretty good in coming back this afternoon. In the championship, you've also, so the top 6 right now, Fulham, Bournemouth, but you've got QPR, West Brom, Blackburn Rovers, who are of course the only former Premier League side, not in the Premier League, or former Premier League champion, not in the Premier League, and Coventry, and hanging around our Stoke. And
yeah, but they dropped their last two, so that kind of shot them in the foot.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's a shame. We all love that cold night in Stoke. It's
as an Arsenal fan, I hope they stay there and just stay buried there, because I'm tired of that team coming out with sledgehammers and beating the snot out of physically just beating everybody up, man. They can just stay down there. I can watch Peter Crouch with the robot anytime I want. I don't need to see Stoke back in the Premier League.
all right. But so we've also, I'll just quickly hit League Two. Forest Green is still, they've proven themselves to be the class of the competition thus far. They lost in the FA Cup, so we won't see them there when we get to the third round proper and all our favorite teams. But they've been pretty good in the league. They're undefeated in their last 5. They're 6 points clear. They're doing pretty well. But I think probably the drama of this year, lower leagues beyond the championship and who goes to the Premier League. League One,
the
top.
It
just keeps. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down.
You have Rotherham at the top of the table, and Wigan's hung around. But the crazy thing though is the fact that you're seeing the random game cancellations that have occurred. You have a 3-game swing through a lot of these teams, but I mean, there is an 11-point jam between first and 12th place, and then 12 points between first and 13th. It's like if anybody gets 3 back-to-back wins, they're suddenly in the top 3, and it's pretty nuts. You're looking at there isn't a significant gap between the teams in the relegation zone and the teams above them. I mean, everybody's just 2 or 3. You get a couple of games, you can climb significantly up the table. You have to pay attention. You really have to pay attention. You could see all 6 of these top 6 teams that have the shot to go up to the next level all not be there in just a month's time. Month's time.
And I've got to say, so it's sort of shaking out, right? So Rotherham, Wickham, and Plymouth Argyle are all down from last year, right? So you've got those 3, and then you've got the 3. I mean, you've got like the 5, or even, I mean, you can go. We all wanted Bolton to be up there to begin with, but and Accrington Stanley, the milk commercial, but it's really kind of shaken out to about so there's the 3 that were down, and then like the 6th from Portsmouth up, Wigan, Sunderland, MK Dons, Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday recently down.
Yeah, but then you got
Oxford United.
The Poppies are 4 of the last 5. I mean, they're putting up points.
Yeah.
So it's there's the funny thing is, if you've been watching Premier League long enough, there's enough teams in League One that you're going to recognize, which makes the drama that's going on there quite interesting. It's quite interesting, especially because these guys are fighting to get to the Premier League. They're fighting to get to the championship.
Right.
So I think that
the odds are 2 out of 3 that they're not going to stay there. No. I mean, that's the reality of it. But we're looking at, we have team, are less than 10 years ago, Wigan won the FA Cup, and Sunderland
and probably one of the best FA Cup finals that I've ever seen. That was a fantastic game.
Oh my God. You're not. Let's hope you see that again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's hope. I would love to see a championship side make the final.
Yeah,
because that would be crazy.
Yeah, because Wigan got relegated that same year.
My problem is it will inevitably be against Chelsea, which will put us against everyone in the universe.
That's true.
So, but like, you've got everyone in the universe versus a good team. I hope so.
Yeah.
But honestly, going forward in League One, Rotherham, Wickham, Plymouth Argyle, all recently down. I like them a lot. I like where Sunderland and Wigan are. I don't think both Wigan and Sunderland are going to get the automatic spot. So I think one of them are going to have to go through.
I agree. Yeah,
qualification.
I agree. And I think it's going to be Sunderland. That's just such a Sunderland thing to do right now, is to, you are clearly head and shoulders above the rest of this clubs when it comes to probably resources and facilities. And yet you have 2 games in hand. You're sitting on 35 points. If you win those 2, you're back at top table. But it's still,
But you're
2020 Sunderland.
Right.
You're Sunderland.
But you're Sunderland. Like, you're not going to win both.
Everyone in the world is pulling for you, and you still can't get it together.
All right, so let's turn our attention back to things
Thank you,
domestically.
Justin. That's my favorite segment.
Yeah.
Can I just point out my disappointment in this lower league sort of praising that we've had, that Exeter, who've now been going up and up and up and are now 3rd in League Two, haven't even had a mention.
Well, automatic qualifiers. We'll see when they upset Forest Green.
Yeah.
Well,
I can see the
We'll give them
ground
a
from
mention.
here.
Yeah, Sean, you are right. You are right. On this podcast, we need to give an extra special attention to Exeter,
Sure.
because we have actually someone who can see the grounds from their home. We have to make sure we throw Exeter in, because Exeter is sitting
Thank you.
3rd, and they are actually looking very good to qualify.
Sean, it
for
was-
League One.
Sean, it
It
was
be an amazing
noted
accomplishment
this
for
week
Exeter.
in my notes that Exeter had entered a automatic promotion
Yes.
spot.
So-
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, they've only
Exeter-
got one of the last 6 points. They got to probably step that up a little bit.
So the case of the MLS playoffs. Tomorrow we will have our conference finals set. It is pretty much on one side of the bracket in the Eastern Conference. It has all the makings of being chalk. You've got the Philadelphia Union, who beat New York Red Bulls in their first match to set up a semifinal game against Nashville FC at Talon Energy Stadium, or no, it's Subaru Park now. That they won in probably, let's be honest, one of the worst penalty shootouts ever. Full credit to Andre Blake. He once again demonstrated that he is one of the best goalkeepers in MLS. He didn't have a lot to do during the game. Saved the first 2 penalties and then watched 2 go over his head into the river end. And those balls are probably floating somewhere down the Delaware now. On the other conference semifinal game will be settled tomorrow, and that is the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference and the Supporter Shield winners, New England Revolution, led by Bruce Arena, against NYCFC. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I apologize. On the other side, it is complete and utter chaos. Real Salt Lake, who saw that coming, managed to knock off Seattle Sounders and Sporting KC to book a berth in the Western Conference Finals, where they will play the number 14 Portland Timbers next Sunday. Mike, let's start by giving the Union some credit. Coming into the playoffs, this was a big one for Jim Curtis, or for Curtis, the manager.
Certainly
For
was.
Jim Curtin.
Yeah, Jim Curtin.
Part of the knock on him was that he could get the team into playoffs, but he couldn't win a playoff game. He could get them there, but he couldn't seal the deal.
Right.
These games have not been pretty at all.
They're not exactly becoming of the team that was second ranked in the East. They're not befitting of their position, certainly.
Yeah, the defense has been solid. Just the strikers have not shown up. Jacob Gleesness with the latest goal ever scored in an MLS game. I mean, when you score a goal in the 128th minute of a 120-minute game, you're doing something.
True, and it should be noted he's a central defender. So
yes, it was a great goal.
Yeah,
I know. As
one of
Rob,
the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, as Rob puts his scarf up across his face because he's like, "Yeah, I can't believe that happened to me."
I'm sorry, Rob, but like there's certain plays in sports that happen that I watch over and over again, and like Jenkins hitting the shot to win the title in 2016. I'm a Villanova alum, but like I watched that Glesnes shot like all last Sunday, like just over and over again.
But let's be both of you, Rob, Mike, let's be honest. That game was exactly what I thought that game was going to be. I mean, that was a battle of attrition in a knockout competition that you probably don't necessarily get to see in Europe, because you don't really get that. Right.
Yeah, it's a different competition, right? Like it's your deepest rival, right? With everything on the line. And we have the supporter shield. Or
there is no more tomorrow if you lose that game.
Right.
It's not like, I mean, I could see, I watched it last year, Manchester United and Liverpool in a FA Cup match. But it wasn't the same sort of game because of the time of the year that it happened, right?
Right.
I can also.
And it's also it kind of like the MLS Cup is kind of what matters the most to us, right? So like you've got everything on the line, and you're in overtime, and yeah, no, I mean that's.
But it was totally a war of attrition.
Yeah.
So Rob, I'll give you the first shot at this. What did you make of that game? What were your thoughts? I know you're heartbroken.
I'm heartbroken because I know a lot of people who went to the match, because it was actually, you could drive to it from Jersey and New York. But from a Rebels point of view, we were playing with house money. In the chat, I showed you the list of all the journalists who basically wrote off the Red Bulls as far as making the playoffs, considering they have like no DP signing, and one of their most highest paid players was out with the Achilles tendon injury for all season, which is in Aaron Long. So, the very fact that they made the playoffs was interesting. And I knew the fact that because they made the playoffs and they were playing in Philly, or Chester, sorry, not Philly, that it was going to be an awful looking game to watch, unless you were a fan of the Union or the Red Bulls. And they played, the Red Bulls said, you know what? No, there will not be goals. If you get a goal, you have to really work really hard for it. And the Union said, right on, we're going to do the same to you. And like, I think Jim Curtin was the one who said that it set the sport back like a few years or something. And I love watching it, obviously up to the last possible second, because I really wanted penalties, because I think penalties would have been fun, honestly, between these two. But we all know Andre Blake is a freaking god. Jesus Christ, it's insane. It hurt because it's a Union. It hurt because we can taste the victory, but we were playing with house money at the end of it, and we were fine with it. All I know is I just hope that if the Union or the Revs are going to play City, but if they meet, just remind them that New York is red and it's not blue. Right? Just remind them. Please do that for me.
By the way, I've got to say,
a bit like London.
I hate everything about City, right? Like City's the fake Chelsea, right? Like Chelsea makes a lot of money as a franchise. City doesn't. They lose money. They're the fake Chelsea. I hate everything about them. But man, like especially their little outpost that they've decided to throw up in the United States over here in our most populous city. I hate that even more, but I've never been a bigger fan of them. I really want them to beat the Revs.
Now, I want the Revs to win, partially because I want to see Matt Turner go up against Andre Blake. That's really what I want to see.
Oh yeah, because that. I would like to see Matt Turner go up against Andre Blake, because they're both going to be at the top of their game, because Andre's got to be feeling some sort of way that Matt's kind of usurped him as the recognized best goalkeeper in the MLS. And
wait, who does this recognition?
Not me.
I will not
The
consent.
same journalist
Gosh,
that voted
like-
for the Ballon d'Or winner. That's
That
it.
was
Oh, right.
exactly
Yeah,
where
that's a good point.
that was exactly where I was going to go with it.
That's a good point.
This is probably the first fully healthy playoff campaign that Andre Blake has had, and he's showing us just how good he is. It would be the most Philly thing in the world for the Union to go on a run and win the MLS Cup with a team that's not as good as the team that played last year, because
Right.
we never win a title with our best team. We always win a title with a team that either wasn't as good as the team the year before or won't be as good as the team next year that won't win.
Right.
But it'd be the most Philly thing ever. But to do it, they've got to get through. And Sean, this is where we ran into it last year with the betting. Bruce Arena.
Well, the one that Matt got every game wrong. That one.
Yeah. Bruce Arena is the best manager in
Oh
MLS.
yeah, you've mentioned him before. Yeah. You've mentioned him.
You know, former men's national team manager. He was the one who led us to the quarterfinals of the 2002 World Cup. He has won multiple championships at every stop that he's had in the MLS. He may not be the world's greatest international manager, although he has accomplished something that no manager of the United States national team since the 30s has accomplished and gotten us to the last 8 of a World Cup. But the one thing he does know how to do is manage an MLS and get a team in a position to win a championship. They are the Supporter Shield. They had, a 73-point season and a 34-game season. That's, anytime, I don't care, anytime in any league that you average over 2 points a game, you probably had something that resembles a good season. They did. They will be the favorites against NYCFC. And I would have to say whoever wins that Eastern Conference final, be it Philly, be it New England, be it even NYCFC, going up against either Portland or Real Salt Lake, certainly if Real Salt Lake keeps this dream season alive, would go into that game as favorites. Mike, the one thing I do want to say that Philly has that they haven't had in the past is this team is actually a little battle hardened. Remember, this is a team that a couple of months ago went down and they lost, but they stood toe to toe with Club America in the Azteca, right?
It's true. They were the last American team left, and I wouldn't say that they lost, but it was certainly not a disrespectful.
It wasn't a disrespectful defeat. They lost, but they went down to the Azteca, which, again, Rob, Mike, I don't know if there is a stadium that is quite as intimidating anywhere in Europe as the Azteca is over here. I mean, you're playing a game at the top of the world on the side of a mountain in front of 100,000 people who really, really don't like you, and some of the worst air quality that you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's a mile above sea level, and the air that is there is toxic.
The only one in Eastern Europe would be where Red Star Belgrade play, and that's really about it.
But Red Star Belgrade Stadium is also not 100,000 people.
Right, and it's not a mile above sea level. It's a couple.
And it's also not. I don't care where you're coming from. If you're an American squad, be it the U.S. men's national team or the Philadelphia Union, you're playing against 100,000 people who really, 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 really hate your guts. And you probably traveled the day before and gotten zero sleep because you've been waken up by fire alarms and a mariachi band at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
It's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean,
if the Mexican national team was playing in Philadelphia, I'd have people running through the halls singing the Eagles fight song all night long.
Yes.
Well, Mike, Chelsea, Mike, if City I think it's a miracle, but they beat the Revs, that means Philly gets to host another home game. And
I know.
Yeah, I
And
bet I've
I
gotten.
expect
I'm
you to
really
be
pulling
there.
for NYCFC.
I expect you to be there. You
I
have
will
to
be
go.
there if the conference final is in Philadelphia. You can bet I'm going to be.
You
there.
have to go. All right. I'm
Of course, I'm going to be there.
So we will know officially tomorrow. But
It should be noted, by the way, that Philadelphia is like 2 hours from my house, so it's like a big. It's a big thing for me to go.
yes, but I also know that when it's necessary for you to get there, you can make it.
It's true. I have met you there.
Yes. So one way or the other, we'll figure that one out. I unfortunately have found out that December 11th, which seems to be a really, really good day for sports, I'm not going to be able to watch any of it.
What's going on December 11th?
My good friend and best man at my wedding, lawyer Dave, is getting married on the 11th. Now, had I known everything that was going to happen on the 11th, I might have asked him to postpone it, because you've got the MLS Cup, Manchester United is playing, and of course the Army Navy game.
Oh, that's not next week. It's
No, it's
for the
weeks.
week after. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it's championship. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah, so I've got to deal with all the stuff that I'm going to miss for this doggone wedding. Buddy, I'm going to play you the tape of this. Understand how much I love you, because I'm giving all of this up to fly to Texas for this wedding. The only
You're only missing Norwich away.
I'm missing Norwich, but that could be one of those things that we actually win for the first time in a dog's age.
What, you've not beaten Norwich for a dog's age?
We haven't beaten Norwich and we haven't won a game.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we managed to lose to Sheffield United last year.
Yeah. Yeah. So did we.
that's a very good point.
So anyway, gentlemen, it has been a great time. We ran a little bit over, but
Can I just say something quickly before we finish? Just
No.
for obviously our millions of viewers.
no,
There-
you're going to do it anyway, though.
I am. Two films to watch. One is on Netflix, I Believe in Miracles. If you want to find out how Nottingham Forest, who were mid-second division at the time, which is now obviously called the Championship, went on to then win 2 successive European Cups. It's a fantastic documentary, about an hour and a half long. I was lucky enough to watch the Wenger documentary last week as well, and that is definitely worth watching. And the last thing that's going to be worth watching is my idea for the alternative World Cup, for which the draw will be made live in the first week in January. You are all invited to join us for the inaugural ceremony of the alternative World Cup.
All right. And the great thing about this is, Sean, over here, Netflix is different. So there's stuff that you get over there, like the Nottingham Forest documentary, that we don't necessarily get.
Can I say
No.
Can I say also on the film reviews, I watched the Diego Maradona 10-part special that's on Amazon Prime, so you don't have to. Don't. It's not good.
All right.
It's just not good.
All right. I think we've taken care of all of that stuff. Now, I can officially dismiss everybody and say thank you to London Sean for his film reviews and all of that jazz. Thank you to Larry, the insurance guy, for coming on, giving us a city report. Celtic Cam for coming on and giving us the report from the land of enchantment. It was good to see Coach G again this weekend. Thanks a lot to Byron Robb, hanging out, talking a little bit of Germany, filling us in on Ralph Ragnick, and talking a little bit about MLS playoffs. Chelsea Mike, recapping the Chelsea Man United game and talking about the lower leagues. And of course, big shouts out to producer Stead, as always. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. For the cast of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, I'm Mike, and have a good week.